But first, it's been a big hit on BBC Three, and tonight the surreal sketch show Little Britain is launched on BBC Two, where it'll unleash its lineup of pretty grotesque characters on the nation. It's been hailed as one of the funniest new shows around, and its creators are Matt Lucas and David Walliams, and it's delightful to have you in the studio. Good afternoon to both.
Thank you very much.
Hello. Where the hell do you get this stuff from? some of it is grotesque, some of it is surreal, and I guess in the traditions of great British comedy, it makes your toes curl.
Well, it all comes out of our heads, Brian, but we tend to, before we start writing, we always watch Kilroy and Trisha, which I think there are people on those shows who are more grotesque and bizarre than any of the things on our show.
Vicky Pollard, I wonder where you got that from, Matt?
Well, Vicky Pollard, I should explain, is a teenage delinquent girl.
She's awful, isn't she?
She's about 14, yeah, and she talks 10 to the dozen. She's like, but because what happened was there was this whole thing happened, what are you doing nothing about? Shut up! Yeah. And we got the idea, to cut a long story short, when I was at Bristol University, I made, with 2 or 3 other people, a documentary called How Are You, which is just 6 minutes long, and we went up to Broadmead, which was the shopping centre, and we went up to people and we just said, how are you? And we filmed their responses. And there was this young, it was actually a boy, and I said, how are you? And he sort of went, sort of like, finer as someone? And I said, do you mind me asking you that question? Sort of like, yeah, but I don't know, or something like that. And I showed David this clip, and we were just talking about doing a character who was the least articulate person in Britain. And then we were sort of got to thinking, well, why is this person so inarticulate? And then we thought, well, if it's a teenage girl who's committed loads of crimes and always done things wrong, then she's always put on the spot, and that is why she's sort of stammering and stuttering and buying time.
There's a Vicky Pollard on every street corner, outside of every off licence or a shopping centre or swimming pool. And the most terrifying people in the country at the moment, I think, are girls of about that age. Yeah. What are you looking at? You know, that kind of thing. Nothing. Don't kill me.
I've got one at home, but fortunately she's not quite like that.
Oh, she will be.
But there are moments of it. But was it hard to do, Vicky? Because the speed of it is amazing.
It's really
and we take a lot of care to actually write all the dialogue so that, I mean, it's not just gobbledygook she's saying. She's talking about people the people she knows, and we try to create a world for her in all the dialogue. So it is actually very detailed.
But you
very hard to learn.
One paper said that you were nearly reduced to tears trying to get it absolutely spot on.
Absolutely, yeah, because I think I
was reduced to tears.
just very emotional. Yeah. It just takes lots of goes, and as I've said before, I think we're going to have, when we bring out a DVD, maybe we'll have a little featurette, which is me sort of throwing tantrums trying to get it right, because there's plenty of those.
I think this is going to be a huge success. In digital terms, it already has been on BBC Three, hasn't it? I'd have thought, if there's anything going to be spawned from this as separate shows, it could be Vicky Pollard. Also, it could be Emily Howard. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Emily Howard, David?
It's me dressed as a lady. Yeah. There's a lot of that in this show. Mm-hmm. It's just basically we wanted to come up with a character of a transvestite who kept on giving himself away. So the first thing he always says to anyone is, I'm a lady. I'm Emily Howard. I'm a lady. And that's kind of what gives him away, other than the Adam's apple and the big hands. But it's kind of observation that if you're wandering around a park on a Saturday afternoon and you do happen to see a transvestite, you can normally tell from a very long distance because they are wearing bonnets and lace gloves, and they're dressed in a bizarre, over-the-top, ladylike way, in a way that women haven't dressed for about 100 years. And I think that's the observation we were getting at. And it's one of the, I mean, this show starts off from Radio 4, and, for us it was so much fun getting all the looks together.
How do you transfer radio onto telly like this?
Well, we were very lucky. I mean, somebody who was a fan of the show on radio, who was really determined to help us get it onto television and actually directed the pilot, was Graham Linehan, who you may know, he's the writer of Father Ted and the Black Books. And
there was also some input from the man behind Legal Gentlemen.
Yeah, Graham did the pilot with us and really got us kind of going on TV, but he always said, I won't have time to do the series. And then when we came to do the series, we were very, very lucky to get Steve Benderlack, who's actually the director of the League of Gentlemen and the Royal Family, to kind of make it look brilliant. We talked a lot about, do you know the photographer Martin Parr? He does. Now he's this brilliant photographer. He's kind of, his work is up in things like the Tate Modern, and he takes pictures of sort of British life and celebrates them, and it takes pictures. Things like sort of seaside scenes or whatever, and he makes
quite
them
kitsch and gaudy.
And they're at once sort of grotesque and beautiful at the same time, and that's the kind of tone we wanted. And Steve Benderlack is a real artist as a director, and we worked with him and looked at a lot of these photographs and created a look. And then Mark Gatiss, who's actually in the League of Gentlemen. One of the actors. He's our script editor. So.
There is that feel to it.
There is, but what we wanted to do, we were talking about transferring it from radio to TV, was to, hope this doesn't sound too strange, was to try and create a show that had as much visual pleasure as it did verbal.
Yeah, we wanted to show that if you just switched on for like 30 seconds, you'd know, I know what that show is. And I think you had that with, say, The Royal Family, and you have it with The Office, and you have it with Phoenix Nights.
And a show that you wouldn't necessarily even be able to spot had begun on radio. We wanted the radio show to be very much a radio show, and the TV show to work very much as a TV show.
Let's just hear some of it, shall we? Have we got a little clip? Let's have a go.
If you're thinking of going on holiday and the Arctic is fully booked, why not try Scotland?
Very good.
Yes, it's very good. I assume it was all freshly made on the premises.
Enjoying your stay?
Yes, very much.
We were just saying how much we like the soup. Did you make it?
Maybe I did and maybe I didn't.
Well, did you?
Yes.
Well, it's delicious. We'd love to be able to make it ourselves.
You'd like to know my secrets, would ya?
Well, yes.
Have you ever heard of a thing called butter?
Yes.
Golden colour and slippery to the touch.
Yeah, well, that goes on. I think I'm right in saying...
on.
Is that Ray McCooney?
Ray McCooney.
Yeah.
Matt named him. I think we were just trying to think
the old hotelier,
Yeah, we were trying to think of a Scottish name, and we thought we like the name Ray Cooney, so let's just put a muck in there.
But that character, we should explain that he's playing the flute.
Yes.
It's not just a sound effect. Yeah, he's a character who's trying. He's a hotelier, and he's sort of deliberately trying to create a kind of mysticism about very mundane things.
Like a tomato.
Yes, like tomato soups, Have you ever heard of the seeded fruit that is often mistaken for a vegetable?
Yes, the tomato.
They call it the tomato.
The tomato,
So he
right.
goes on like that, and it's just a total time waster and really annoying.
Yeah.
But I mean, that sort of developed along from the radio, and and we even did that in the pilot, and we didn't actually broadcast it because we didn't feel we got it quite right. It's interesting, these challenges, because when we did it on the pilot originally, he had little pointy like elf ears and things like that, and then we just realised that was far too much. So it was great we had the opportunity to kind of get things wrong and and start again.
Where did you get your guy Matt in the wheelchair who wants to go to the opera? I mean, actually, that might upset somebody. Actually, I'm not sure if that sketch might. So we better not say too much. But
it might upset people who like comedy. No, that idea
It upset me.
That basically, we used to do this show called Rock Profile, where we do sort of what has been now termed unimpressions.
Yes.
Of
Not by us, by other people who saw our impressions and decided they weren't good enough.
Okay.
But we'd sort of deliberately try to not be like them sometimes. And we had this sketch that was Lou Reed and Andy Warhol. We imagined them living together.
And Andy was sort of a guest in Lou's house, and this is how I did Lou Reed, with like that. I'll say, Andy, what are you going to have for your lunch?
Chips.
All right, if you have chips for your lunch, you can't have them for your tea. What are you going to have for your tea?
Chips.
No, I've just said, if you have them for your lunch, you can't have them for your tea.
Yeah, no.
So we got into a kind of a vibe with that, and we thought, oh, we should actually do something more with that. So we kind of developed this whole scenario where I was his carer, then he was in a wheelchair, and it all happened very organically with us together in a room.
But we are having texts, apparently. We are getting texts, obviously, from people who have seen BBC Three. Mm-hmm. Is it right to make sketches about, people sitting in wheelchairs?
Well, no, it isn't. He doesn't need to be in a wheelchair.
No,
and I think that's what we're getting at, really, is Andy is incredibly lazy and he just likes being pushed around the place. I don't think we'd want to do a joke at all about disability. I mean, we don't have any kind of... any prejudices about anybody. So
no, he's just a very lazy character
Yes.
and he's got this friend who sort of mollycoddles him and cares for him, and he rather enjoys that. And so we do that kind of panto trick where whenever the friend turns the back, we see Andy get up.
Yeah.
You know, and then we play that game as throughout the series. We do more and more remarkable things. He'll jump off a diving board.
yeah, I mean, we want him in the second series. We want to have him like doing a kind of massive sort of ice skating jump and stuff like that. So I mean, I don't think it would be funny if we really needed the wheelchair.
Yeah, so it's a bit like panto. It's behind you.
Yes.
It's what you can't see, but you know what he can't see, but you, the viewer, can.
It looks great fun to make this, but I'm sure it was very hard work as well to get it absolutely spot on.
It is
right.
hard work, but we have. I mean, some of the show is recorded in front of an audience.
Yes.
We had nights.
So how did that work?
Well, okay. Well, it's just that we film the stuff on location first,
Yeah.
and then we play that into the audience on the night, and we do sketches on the night on sets in front of the audience. And those nights are a lot of fun. They're the real reward because you're working with lots of cameras, so you don't have to do the sketches so many times, and there's an audience responding. And the thing about comedy, I mean, you said it, Matt, that all comedy is a punt. It's like we don't know whether it's going to work. And what's great of doing it in front of an audience is it really sharpens you up.
It's not canned laughter anymore.
No,
No, but I think. Sorry to interrupt, but I think it fashions how you write because when we used to write Rock Profile,
Yes,
we'd write in a certain way that we would be a bit obscure and we would be a bit indulgent, and I think that was fine because that was a show that was on late night on a cable television station, and probably the audience that were watching that might have been looking for something like that. But here we are writing for BBC Two in 10 p.m, relatively prime time, and so we're actually trying to write jokes.
Yeah, and you know that if you're going to be in front of an audience
you have
of 500, 600 people, you don't want to end your sketch and people to go, oh, was that it? You want them to laugh at the end and hopefully applaud. So it really does sharpen us up there. And I think we love like shows like The Two Ronnies or French and Saunders. And I know a lot of comedy has gone the way of being very naturalistic, like The Office and Phoenix Nights. But I think we were determined to have a little bit of that spirit of The Two Ronnies or Morecambe and Wise.
Well, it works. And if you'd like to speak to David and Matt, 0500 909 693. We've got lots of texts coming in, 85058. And you can, of course, email mayo@bbc.co.uk. And Joe, you've got a few there.
A couple of emails here. This is from Simon Lacey. He says, Matt and David, congratulations on Little Britain, the funniest show I've seen for years. My wife and I have been crying with laughter at it on BBC Three and we'll be watching again on BBC Two. And this is from Kevin. He says, the guy in the wheelchair really taking the mickey out of his friend Helper is the funniest sketch I've seen in ages, especially when they went to the swimming pool. That was genius. Thanks a lot, guys. What time's it on?
Thank you. Thanks, Mum, for sending those.
It's on at 10 p.m, I believe.
Oh,
on
great.
BBC
So I'll be
Two,
back in time. Good.
which is number 2 button or 102 or something like that. It's easy to find anyway, BBC Two. Righty-ho, Matt Lucas and David Williams. I'm sorry. I knew I was going to say that once. The creators and stars of Little Britain. Gets a good run out on BBC Two this evening. It's been on BBC Three already. We've got a text here from Patrick who asks the question I was going to ask you next. An inspired choice to get Tom Baker to do the voiceovers. Whose idea was that?
Well, we had a short list of 3 people, and Tom was top of the list. The other people on the list were actually Harold Pinter, who I imagine would have probably said no.
Probably, yeah.
And the third person
was Mr. Bronson from Grange Hill, the actor Michael Sheard,
right.
who we sort of grew up watching. But Tom Baker was David's a very big Doctor Who fan.
I was a massive fan. When I still am to some extent.
Really?
In that he did cast an amazing spell over me when I was young. Yeah, completely. Really? I mean, I was totally obsessed with him. And it's kind of funny because when we work with him now, he'll talk about Doctor Who unless you ask him about it. If you sort of ask him, and sometimes I actually did a Randall and Hopkirk with him, and he was talking about, he goes, oh, we filmed in a country house like this. The story used to belong to Mick Jagger. I said, yes, Pyramids of Mars, 1976, like that, and he suddenly clammed up because he knows that I'm a massive fan. But yeah, I mean, he's brilliant because we put these words into his mouth that are at once very pompous and very absurd, and he is just the person, I think, the only person who can really deliver that.
Yeah, he has
authority.
He has an age and an authority that we can't bring to the show.
I think he's also a great comedian. I mean, Doctor Who is virtually a comedy show. And, who can remember him in Life and Loves of She-Devil and Blackadder 2? I mean, he's just an extraordinary comedian. And he added lots of lines of his own to our script, making it a lot better.
Simon in Somerset asked me to ask Matt if Chumley will return, please. This is,
Yeah,
of course,
yeah,
one of
Bernard-
your first characters, Sir Bernard.
Yeah, that's right. Sir Bernard Chumley. Thank you. Chumley's in Little Britain, I'm delighted to say. He's in.
Good.
There are 8 episodes and he's in 3 of them. So yeah, it's quite weird actually. We did do a series called Sir Bernard Stately Holmes, and we sort of struggled because in a way Chumley was very much a live creation, and because that was the thing, the character that I was doing live, and we'd go out and do shows together, me and Dave. Almost any material, any joke, you'd fashion into Chumley's voice in a way, and make him say them. But actually, you need to be a lot stricter when you're doing a sketch show, because otherwise he'll be like every character must only have a certain view, and in a way Chumley was too broad. So we started again, and we created a scenario where Chumley was a bit of a fish out of water. He's living in these high-rise council flats, and we gave him a sister who you never see, who's an invalid, and there's a suggestion that he might have been the cause of her accident.
And kind of whatever happened to Baby Jane.
Right.
They were child actors together, and yeah, but it actually it brought a bit of pathos to it as well, and it was really good fun to perform that character again.
Marge Dawes, or whatever her name was, is in it from Shooting Stars as
That's
well. But
right.
in a slightly different form, though. It's a sort of a Fat Club thing, isn't
That's right. It's a Weight Watchers sort of takeoff called Fat Fighters. And again, I think the character has come a long way from Shooting Stars, and that's, obviously sitting and writing it together, it kind of becomes like a new character. And she's obviously a little overweight herself. Congratulations to the makeup department for their fabulous prosthetic stomachs, which, funny enough, I wore throughout the series and I'm still wearing.
Very convincing.
Very convincing.
You didn't think of taking it off?
No, I haven't thought about that yet.
But there is some Reeves and Mortimer in this, and I know they've been an influence on you, Matt.
Definitely.
Been as much
completely.
as you
I was
do?
watching Big Night Out last night, which was the first show for Channel 4, and I think really when I was remember it being at university and watching their show, and it being the show that made me think, yes, this is what I want to do, because at the time I was thinking, am I an actor? Do I want to be a comedian? What do I want to do? But that show totally convinced me. They have a kind of style of their own, which actually I don't think really you can even attempt to emulate. But certainly I think maybe their sense of fun we've tried to pick up on.
And confidence as well. You have to have confidence to be able to perform like that, don't you?
Yeah, as Dave said before, all comedy is a punt, and as soon as you accept that, what we tried to do with Little Britain, there are 8 episodes, that's 4 hours. We wrote 6 hours worth of stuff, in the knowledge that some of it wouldn't work when we showed it to our script editor, when we showed it to our producer and director. So we filmed a bit more, and that gives you confidence, just saying, well, we don't have to, this doesn't have to work, this one.
But if there's something that you both feel really passionately about in that 6 hours of material that you really want in, and the script editor says, no, I don't think it works, who kind of wins that debate?
Well, really, we had these great, very helpful for us with these script discussions. Would be me, Matt, Mark Gatiss, the script editor, and Mfamwe Moore, the producer. And generally, there wasn't too much disagreement.
No.
But it was us bringing our material out in the open. We all looked at it together, and then most of the time there was a kind of good feeling or a bad feeling about it.
Yeah. The thing is, we're not those people who get in a director and then direct them, or get in a producer and produce them. So we get in people to work with us that we really like and respect, and
That's
who
why
can
you
raise
someone
out.
like Mark Gatiss, because it's like League of Gentlemen's obviously a fantastic piece of work. We respect him greatly as a writer and performer in his own right. So that's why we asked him, because we know he's done it.
That's it. And so he has no agenda. He's done it. He doesn't have anything to prove.
I think we know
trust
ourselves.
them.
We know ourselves.
Well.
And when we're writing something and we're both laughing and both really enjoying it, we know it's kind of going to be good.
It must be a laugh. Were you disappointed that Rock Profile didn't get a mainstream?
Well, we're actually incredibly surprised by the success of it, because we did this show incredibly cheaply for UK Play. We filmed 2 episodes in a day, and it was just me and Matt in costume and makeup with Jamie Theakston. That's all it was, and playing pop videos. And it got repeated, and it got written about, and it got shown on BBC Two, which we never expected it to do, and it still gets mentioned now. So really, that it was even a cult success completely takes us by surprise. And I think we're always getting asked to do things like award ceremonies, and kind of like we did the Brits like this year, and stuff like that. So I think it's something we'll return to, maybe in a couple of years, when new pop stars have emerged, and some new people to I was going to say a rude word. Take the mickey out of.
Take the mickey out of. That's always a good one. But the actual writing process, do you sit in a darkened room, or do you sit in a pub?
We sit in a lighted room because it's easier to see the see the page.
Well, we are quite disciplined about it. We do work Monday to Friday, 10 till 5. We tend to bring ideas with us separately, but everything in the show is written up together. And that's how we work, and I'll do the typing, and David will do the dictating, and we drink copious amounts of peppermint tea. But we don't write it down the pub, as David says. We would just be drunk, and it wouldn't be any good.
It'd be pointless. But I mean, there is this great skill. One of them is after dinner speaking, where I've seen people who have turned and they've shown me a script beforehand. I thought, there's no laugh in this. And then I've seen them perform it, and they've got everyone crying.
We do the opposite. We take very funny scripts and eke out all the laughter and do shows that no one.
But I think that's almost a strength in something. I think actually, because I think it should be about the way you do something. Otherwise, you're probably just a sort of, you're just a voice for some jokes. Do you know what I mean? And I think to have a real style. I mean, I love it. Like there's a sketch we do in in Little Britain, the TV series, where it's Sebastian and the Prime Minister.
Yes.
And you say something as the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Right.
And I just go, yeah, like that. And it's like, well, this isn't funny on the page, but people laugh because it's just the way you say it. And if you can get a laugh on the word, yeah, then you're onto a good thing.
And Lou and Andy really came alive, like when we handed in the scripts. Do you want this? No. Are you sure you want this? No. I want it. And it was just that on the page, and people there was a bit of a sort of uncertainty, and then we sort of read it out, didn't we? And it became this whole other thing.
And why is the Dennis Waterman character in it? Why is he a little person?
We have absolutely no idea. Right. I know we did him on the radio. When we did the radio, it just seemed right. They go, I want to write a theme tune and sing the theme tune. That he was just a little bit sort of childish and just had a very high-pitched voice. And then when we came to do the TV show, we thought, well, let's actually make him miniature and have like a big set and a little set. But I can't explain to you the reason why, Brian, because there is no logical reason
why. Well, if you two don't know, then no one.
But it was, again, that was, when we talk about taking it from radio to TV, that obviously on radio, all those visual jokes, that where things become bigger and smaller, we didn't even think of them, did we? We just occurred to us that we would.
I think as well we thought this is a show of like original characters, and if we're going to spoof somebody, we'd like to do it in a kind of unusual way, rather than just have him come on and be Dennis Waterman. God knows what Dennis Waterman thinks of it.
It's very good. So, can you stick around for a few minutes?
Sure.
Yes, of course, it'd be a pleasure.
If you'd like to speak to my very funny duo here,
I've left the tumble dryer on, so I'll have to go at some point.
All right, that's fine. That's no problem. 0500 909 693 and 85058 is the text number. We have a call, I believe. Morris in Aberystwyth. Hi, Morris.
Good afternoon. Hello there. Oh, it's the funniest programme I've seen in a long, long while. Those of us who got BBC Three absolutely hooked in it. Sometimes even sort of watching it twice a night. It really is, getting that to that extent. I can't wait to sort of, when some of my friends who got terrestrial television watch it tomorrow. But I actually live in
tonight.
Tonight, yeah.
Thank you.
But I actually live in the village which is adjacent to Llandewi Brevi.
I thought you was going to ask if you're phoning from Llandewi Brevi.
We're not from Llandewi Brevi, but it's high time sort of people took the mickey out of that village, to be honest with you.
Right, so which character, you have to remind me which character's in there. Is it the only gay in the village?
Yeah, we have this character called Davith Thomas, who prides himself on being, certainly to his knowledge, the only gay in his village. And this was inspired by somebody that we knew who was sort of, who also prided himself on being the only gay in his social group. And if you said, but he sort of was quite lonely about it. But if you say, I think I might be gay as well. No, you're not. Because in a way it made him less special.
Yeah.
And so you're in the adjacent village. Have you been to Llandewi Brevi?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And what's it like? Is there one gay man there, or a couple?
I haven't been there that often. There are quite a few stories about the place, but...
Well, we really plan... I mean, we didn't... because the budget didn't allow us to go to Wales, actually, in the first series, but we're really hoping, because we're going to do another series next year, that we're going to go to the real Llandewi Brevi and film
the budget wouldn't stretch all the way to Wales.
Oh, no, it wouldn't stretch to... I mean, we'd constantly have things like, does this character have to be driving a car? Wouldn't it be funnier if they were riding a bike? No, I think wouldn't it be funny if this character wasn't wearing any trousers? No, we need trousers. I know there's another £20.
So what is it, Morris, that tickles you?
About
the show, yeah.
I think it was, the characters, you can strongly sort of relate to them, not necessarily David and Llandewi Brevi, but the other characters are so strong, and the accents, you've both got the accents sort of spot on.
That's the first time anyone's ever said that to us, so thank you very much.
You have, though. That is a strength, isn't it?
When I do Welsh, people usually think I'm doing Asian.
No, you got a classic Welsh accent.
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It's always that bad thing when someone says, "Oh, so you're doing a Welsh accent? From whereabouts in Wales?"
Yeah.
No, just general Welsh.
From Wales in Wales.
Thank you for that call.
Thank you very much.
I guess that is the key to all great sort of comedy, particularly on telly in recent years, is that there is something in all the characters in all of us in some sort of way.
Yeah, I think the ones that people really
That's why
relate
it's good
to.
at David Brent works, because we've all done things that David Brent does. Yeah.
I think those are the ones, and we found it because this is obviously we've got probably I don't know how many characters we've played. It's about sort of 40.
There's something like over 60 characters in the show.
Really?
And we realised that the ones that people really relate to and respond to are the ones that they have met in their own lives in some kind of form. Like I think, as I said, Vicky Pollard is everywhere around us. I think probably somebody they've already met. People have met someone like Daffeth in their group, So I think, I think it's a real lesson.
Andy in Blackpool says, "What was Molly Sugden's reaction when you asked her to appear in the show?"
Well, she was really, really, she is in the series, and well, she was very amenable and absolutely delightful to work with. And I don't want to give it away, but actually something rather unpleasant happens to her, and she didn't mind that either. But it was sort of amazing. I remember we were in the BBC, and her name was up outside the dressing room. It was like, and the names are on outside the doors, and it was Molly Sugden, Little Britain, and I was so proud.
You're going to have to explain this, because this has been a kind of a gag going through it.
Okay, there's a gag going through it, that we're a couple, and that I play the wife, and we're both sort of maybe in our 60s, and I go on and on about being Molly Sugden's bridesmaid at a wedding, and then the real Molly Sugden turns up. I don't want to give too much away, but maybe it wasn't as she said it was. Yeah,
well, that's given it some context. Who are you fans of in the comedy world, me apart?
I like Brian Alexander. Yeah. I think he's got it going on. I like. Well, I think I like some the comedy we grew up watching, like the Two Ronnies and things like that. But I think there is a temptation to just talk about things from 30 years ago.
Yeah, and not give proper praise to the people at the moment who are around.
The Goons.
So we're like
going back in further. Goons.
I'm not that familiar with the Goons.
I really need someone to really introduce me to the. Will you introduce me to the Goons? Because I don't know where to start with them really.
Tatty old tapes lying around.
Oh, really? But I'm really...
Monty Python's that...
Monty Python, amazing, yeah. I mean, that really excited me when I was young.
Hancock.
I did something last year, was in Cruise of the Gods, and I worked with Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon, and I think, are there better comedy actors in the country than them, And Matt's worked a lot with Vic and Bob, and so I think we're quite lucky to have learned a lot from some really, really great people.
Caroline Aherne, Peter Kay, obviously The Office at the moment. There is some great stuff around right now. The League of Gentlemen, of course.
But is there a kind of a website for comedians where you can sort of have a kind of your own chat room to debate whether you're any good or not?
Well, there is a website called notbbc.co.uk. But it's a bit mysterious. I don't know who runs it. I've heard rumours that like Lee and Herring are involved. But that's definitely it's a very in discussion on that. But
there is a website called davidwalliams.com, which isn't an official website, but it's been set up by some fans who lust after David. Yeah. There's about 70 of them.
I've seen you on it, Brian. The chat room.
I'm on it all night. But we've had a text saying, and I think this is a key to a lot of British humour, whether it works or not. Could there be a Little America? Could this translate?
Ooh, I hope so.
My bank manager hopes so.
Yes.
Well, it'd be an interesting one, actually, how the show plays abroad, because I think it will play to a lot of sort of ideas, I think, about that maybe other cultures will have about Britain. Do you know what I mean? Because it is in some ways kind of British stereotypes. I gave this tape to a girl in Sweden. I'm giving a bit too much away in my private life. Who's actually Russian, and she really liked it.
So she got it.
She got it, but she said, "But I couldn't understand when the guy was but I couldn't understand what she was saying." And I was like, "Well, no one in England can either." So I think it's that weird thing when you watch something and you think, "Am I missing something?"
Yes. I think it does go down. I had a call from Steve Spielberg the other day. And he's keen to do something. Fine. Says hi. So I think it's going to go down well there.
I mean, we really love it to be on in America. It'd be really, really fantastic.
There's a road called Little Britain just off Smithfield Market.
There is. That's right.
Is that where you got the name from?
No, I don't know where we.
Well, actually, did you know that El Dorado, the original name for that, I think, was going to be Little England.
Right. Okay.
Because it was the idea that it was a little culture, and
that was a huge success.
Yeah, and maybe we're following in the footsteps of El Dorado.
But we like the idea of the idea of the country being a bit smaller than it actually is. Little Britain, it being a small place we could just.
And we've got this great thing with David Arnold, who's really quite a very successful film composer, does some Bond films, Independence Day, and he composed this great score for us and this great theme, which got that kind of idea of a little country trying to make a bit too much of itself, which I think is what we're very good at in prep.
Well, actually, usually the kind of the PR handouts attached to these sort of things are usually sort of complete rubbish. But this one says, Little Britain looks at the breathtaking debris of modern life and all that makes Britain Britain. That's about right, isn't it?
It's the sort of thing Tom Baker would say in the show, I think.
It isn't bad, though, is it?
No, it's not
that
bad.
does sum it up. You've got
We've got
some
several
more.
emails
Oh, wow.
here. This is Little Britain, Tears and Wet Pants, top job. That's from Aaron in Chelmsford, Essex.
Thank you.
Jez asks, was George Dawes invented for shooting stars or did he already exist?
No, George Dawes was created for shooting stars. Vic and Bob, who I'd worked with prior to that on The Smell of Reeves and Mortimer, asked me to come and be the scorekeeper in their quiz show, and they said, we're calling you George Dawes, and we'd like you to be a baby, and you're going to be wearing a nappy. And I said, there's no way I'm wearing a nappy. I should wear a blue romper suit. And it came and it was pink, so that's compromise. And they were very kind, and they let me do whatever I want. And I love working with them. David's worked with them as well, and they're very generous to work with, and it's very liberating because you can go off the script. And I've just done a sitcom with them called Catterick, which is on early next year, in which I play a horrible hotel manager.
In
Catterick?
Catterick?
In Catterick, yeah. So I still enjoy working with them, and Dave's worked with them as well. They came up with the idea of the name, but then they just let me do what I wanted, and I used to make stuff up as I went along, actually.
Oh, look like you're having fun. This is from Mickey, says, V Disturbed by bloke who fancies meat's gran. Great stuff.
Yes.
So was my mother.
Oh, let's explain
She
that
said
one.
to the producer, she said, well, this is a sketch where I kind of fall in love with Matt's grandma. And my mum said to the producer afterwards, David was always so good with his grandmas. Now I begin to worry.
And this is from John. He says, I just want to say that Rock Profile was the funniest programme that I've seen. Absolutely love the Bee Gees one. I don't know whether you
I
can
like
help with this.
the George Michael one as well. But sorry, yeah.
John says, would love to know how to start in comedy, guys.
Oh, grief.
Well, so would we.
I would say, I mean, we started doing shows in the Edinburgh Festival. When we were first on, we were in the assembly rooms
You've got
at
to be
midnight.
brave to do that.
Well, playing for about 100, in front of about 100 people. And the only way to the toilet, we were on at midnight, obviously everyone was completely drunk when they watched the show. The only way to the toilet was walking across the stage. And I think we learned so much in those, we did a few years in Edinburgh, we learned so much because you get so resilient. Do you know what I mean? And you have to work so hard to get an audience who are totally drunk out their mind and want to go to the toilet every 3 minutes. If you can try and hold those, then that's fine.
Also, get if you want to make it in comedy, just become very depressed, and that might help you.
The other thing I'd say is being serious, because I think we should be serious.
Yes, let's be serious.
Is that this show starts off? We did 2 series on Radio 4, which I think is quite a smart move. So if you can get on radio in any way,
Yeah,
that's a great
and Alan
thing.
Partridge started on radio in The League of
Yes.
Gentlemen and Goodness Gracious Me,
Yeah.
and on The Hour became the Day to Day. So it's a great, Radio 4 was a great breeding ground, and we love to
they
do
would have
some more
never have
stuff there.
trusted us with all this kind of money and everything to make this series if we hadn't tried it out on.
But once
this
again,
on radio.
rather like with Vic and Bob and, I don't know, Eric and Ernie, there's one shorter guy and one taller, thinner guy.
There's a fat one and a thin one, a straight one, a gay one, a bald one, a hairy one, and I know which one I am. Yes, thank you.
Is there any more there?
No.
No,
Jewish
done.
one and a
Well, look,
Christian one.